Princess Aloria was known for her calm and steady nature. In the great palace of the Zephyr Dominion, she always maintained her composure even during hard times. She was a wise leader, and her people trusted her with all their hearts. But today, something unexpected was about to happen. It was a bright morning when a group of royal guards arrived at the palace gates with a special guest. The guest was a human soldier named Captain Marcus Reyes. He came from a faraway planet and had a reputation for bravery and skill. No one had ever seen a human in the palace of the Zephyr Dominion. His arrival caused surprise and many whispered questions among the servants and nobles. The princess listened carefully as her advisors explained the reason for his visit. Captain Reyes was sent by the leaders of Earth to help the Dominion in a time of great need. A common enemy was growing stronger in the galaxy, and the Dominion needed all the help it could get. Though Aloria had heard stories of humans before, she did not know much about them. The idea of a human soldier coming to help her people was both strange and intriguing. When Captain Reyes was led into the Grand Hall, all eyes turned to him. He was tall, with strong shoulders and a calm, confident look in his eyes. His simple uniform showed that he was not part of the fancy court, but a soldier on a serious mission. The room filled with whispers as he walked forward. Despite the attention, he moved quietly and respectfully, knowing that peace was very important here. Princess Aloria felt her heart beat faster as she looked at the soldier. She wondered how a human could help her people, who had long believed they were the best in the galaxy. Still, she decided to give him a chance. Aloria greeted Captain Reyes with a polite bow and a calm voice. "Welcome to the Zephyr Dominion, Captain," she said. Her words were warm, even though she hid her inner doubts behind her usual mask of composure. Captain Reyes nodded and smiled gently. "Thank you, Your Highness. I am honored to be here and ready to serve." His simple words were full of hope and strength. In that moment, the two of them stood at the start of a new chapter. A chapter that might change old beliefs and bring new hope to many. Inside the palace, the large stained glass windows cast colorful light on the marble floors, and the ancient symbols on the walls told stories of past victories and hard-won peace. As word of the human soldier's arrival spread, both the palace staff and the noble visitors felt a mix of excitement and caution. They wondered if this unexpected ally would bring change or trouble. By the end of the day, as the halls of the palace filled with quiet discussion, Princess Aloria realized that this encounter was more than just a visit. It was the beginning of a journey that would test old traditions and forge a new path for her people. In that quiet moment, a spark of hope was lit, a hope that together they could face the challenges ahead. After the meeting with Captain Reyes, the palace was filled with a new kind of energy. The presence of the human soldier had sparked many thoughts and questions among the people of the Zephyr Dominion. Princess Aloria, still calm on the outside, felt a mix of curiosity and worry. She wanted to know more about this soldier and his distant world. The princess had grown up with strong beliefs about her people. For many years, the Dominion had thought of themselves as superior. They believed that no other race could match their wisdom and technology. However, the arrival of Captain Reyes challenged these old ideas. His simple words and honest manner showed that there might be more to his people than everyone had assumed. Captain Reyes had come on a secret mission. His task was to speak with the Dominion's council and request an alliance. There was a new enemy rising in the galaxy, one that threatened all worlds. The human soldier had been sent to show that strength could come from working together. His message was clear. No matter where you come from, every race could offer something valuable in the fight for survival. Inside the palace halls, many advisors whispered among themselves. Some believed that trusting the human could lead to disaster. They remembered old conflicts and mistrust that had lasted for generations. Other advisors thought that this might be a chance to bring new ideas and strength to the Dominion. Caught between these opinions, Princess Aloria felt the heavy burden of her duty. She knew that her decision could change the future of her people. In quiet moments in her private chambers, the princess looked at old records and listened to stories of past heroes. These records told of times when bravery and unity had brought great change. Aloria began to wonder if Captain Reyes could be one of those heroes. His calm confidence and simple honesty gave her hope that his people could be trusted. During several meetings, Captain Reyes spoke slowly and clearly. He explained the dangers that threatened every planet, using simple examples that everyone could understand. He told stories of hardship and survival from his own world. His words were not fancy, but they carried a strong message of hope and determination. Slowly, his clear speech began to change the opinions of some of the skeptical advisors. As the day passed, the differences between the human and the Zephyr people became more visible. Yet, with every word exchange, the gap between the two worlds grew smaller. The princess saw that both sides shared the same fears and hopes. Both wished for peace and safety for their people. In this clash of worlds, there was also a chance for learning and growth. By the time the palace lights dimmed, Princess Aloria felt a new hope deep inside her. The conversations with Captain Reyes had begun to break down old walls of mistrust. She looked forward to the next meeting, believing that together they could build a future where different worlds work side by side. The sun of the Zephyr Dominion cast a golden glow over the palace as Princess Aloria sat in deep thought. The arrival of Captain Reyes had changed everything. She had expected a rough and simple-minded soldier, but instead, she found a man of intelligence, patience, and quiet strength. His words were not filled with empty flattery or arrogance. He spoke of survival, unity, and hope. But not everyone in the palace trusted him. Deep within the palace halls, whispers filled the air. Some nobles feared that the human's presence would bring dishonor to the Dominion. Others suspected he was a spy, sent to gather secrets about their people. Even the royal advisors debated among themselves. Was it wise to trust an outsider? One evening, as the princess walked through the ancient library, she discovered something unexpected. In the oldest part of the archives, she found a dusty book hidden behind layers of unread scrolls. The book contained records of a long-forgotten history, one that mentioned humans in the past. Her heart raced as she read the pages. According to the records, centuries ago, humans had once traveled through the galaxy and stood alongside the Dominion in times of war. They had fought bravely, not with advanced weapons, but with clever strategies and unmatched determination. The records spoke of a time when humans were respected allies, not seen as weak or unworthy. Princess Aloria was stunned. Why had no one spoken of this before? Had the truth been hidden on purpose? Determined to find answers, she called for Captain Reyes. When he arrived at the library, she handed him the book. "Did you know about this?" she asked, her voice calm but firm. Reyes looked at the pages with great interest. His fingers traced over the faded ink, and he slowly nodded. "I've heard stories," he admitted, "but no proof like this. It seems history has been forgotten or buried." Aloria's mind swirled with questions. If humans had once been allies, why were they now seen as lesser beings? Why had this history been hidden from her people? At that moment, a sudden noise echoed through the library. A shadow moved between the bookshelves. Aloria's sharp eyes caught the figure disappearing into the darkness. Someone had been spying on them. Reyes reacted instantly, moving towards the noise, but the intruder was already gone. The princess clenched her fists. Someone did not want this truth to be known. She turned to Reyes, her gaze steady. "There is more to this than we know," she said. "Someone is trying to keep the past buried." For the first time, a small smile played on Reyes's lips. "Then let's uncover it." The princess knew she had stepped into something much larger than she had imagined. The truth about humans and the Dominion's past was hidden, and she was determined to find it. But in doing so, she might uncover enemies far closer than she had expected. The night air in the Zephyr Dominion was cool and silent, but inside the palace, tension was growing. Princess Aloria paced in her chambers, the old book still in her hands. The forgotten history of humans and the Dominion troubled her. Someone had hidden this truth, someone powerful. Captain Reyes stood nearby, his arms crossed. His sharp eyes scanned the room, always aware of his surroundings. "Whoever was spying on us in the library doesn't want this history to be known," he said. "That means we're close to something important." Aloria nodded. "But why? What do they gain by keeping humans and the Dominion apart?" Before Rhys could answer, a sudden knock at the door made them both alert. A royal guard entered and bowed. "Your Highness, an urgent matter requires your presence in the council chamber." Aloria exchanged a glance with Rhys. Something wasn't right. The timing was too perfect. She followed the guard through the grand halls of the palace, Rhys walking silently beside her. When they arrived, the air in the council chamber was heavy with suspicion. The high-ranking nobles and advisors stood in a circle, their expressions unreadable. One of them, a tall noble with sharp features, stepped forward. "Lord Kale, a powerful figure in the Dominion." "Your Highness," he said smoothly, "we have concerns about the human soldier's presence in our palace." Aloria remained calm. "He is here on an official mission to discuss an alliance." Kale's eyes narrowed. "Yet we hear reports that you have been secretly meeting with him, and in our royal library, no less." Aloria's grip on the book tightened. They knew. Someone had already informed them. Rhys stood still, his face unreadable, but his posture was ready, prepared for anything. Another noble spoke. "Humans are not like us, Princess. They are unpredictable. Their history is filled with war and destruction." Aloria's patience wore thin. "And yet they have survived against great odds. Does that not make them worthy of respect?" Kel's lips curled into a smirk. "Respect or danger? Perhaps this human soldier is not here to help but to gather information on us. A trap." They were trying to turn the council against Rhys. Aloria took a deep breath and raised the old book for everyone to see. "This is proof that humans and the Dominion were once allies. That history has been hidden from us. Why?" The room fell into silence. Some nobles looked away, uncomfortable. Others murmured to each other. Kel's expression darkened. "That book is old, unreliable. You should not trust everything written in forgotten pages." Aloria saw the fear in his eyes. He did not want the truth to come out. Rhys finally spoke, his voice calm. "Hiding the past does not erase it." Kel's gaze flickered to him, filled with silent anger. Aloria knew one thing for sure. Someone in this palace was working against them, and they would not stop until the truth was buried forever. "You said." The council chamber remained silent after Captain Rhys spoke. The tension in the air was thick. Princess Aloria knew that pushing further could make enemies of powerful nobles, but she also knew the truth could not stay hidden forever. Lord Kel's sharp eyes locked onto her. "Your Highness, I advise caution. The past is filled with many stories, some true, some false. Do not let a human soldier influence your judgment." Aloria kept her expression calm. A ruler's judgment must be based on truth, not fear. Kel's jaw tightened, but he said nothing more. The meeting was over. As Aloria and Rhys walked back through the palace halls, the princess spoke in a hushed voice. "They are afraid, Captain. Someone has spent years making sure the truth stays hidden." Rhys nodded. "Then we need more proof. Something they can't deny." That night, Aloria called her most trusted servant, an elderly scholar named Valen. He had spent decades studying the ancient records of the Dominion. If anyone could help uncover the truth, it was him. Valen arrived in Aloria's private chambers, his eyes filled with wisdom. "Your Highness, I hear you seek answers about the past." Aloria handed him the old book. "Tell me, Master Valen, why was this history forgotten?" The old scholar carefully turned the pages, his fingers tracing the faded words. His face grew serious. This knowledge was not lost by accident. It was erased. Aloria's breath caught. "Why?" Valen sighed. "Long ago, the Dominion stood alongside humans in battle. But when the war ended, some in power feared the strength of humanity. They saw them as a future threat, not allies. So, they rewrote history. They buried the truth. Reyes crossed his arms. And now, they'll do anything to keep it buried. Aloria's mind raced. If the Council feared humanity's strength, what would they do if she tried to restore the truth? Would they turn against her? Before she could speak, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. The balcony doors burst open, and dark figures rushed inside. Assassins. Reyes reacted instantly. He grabbed Aloria and pulled her behind him as he drew his weapon. The attackers moved fast, but Reyes was faster. With swift, precise movements, he took down the first two before they could strike. Aloria's heart pounded. She was trained in combat, but this was different. These men were not ordinary thieves. They were sent to silence her. Valen scrambled to safety as more attackers entered. Reyes fought fiercely, using both strength and strategy to keep them back. But there were too many. Aloria grabbed a ceremonial blade from the wall. She would not stand helpless. She lunged at one of the assassins, her strike quick and precise. The enemy fell, shocked that the princess herself had fought back. The remaining assassins hesitated. Then, realizing their mission had failed, they retreated into the night. Breathing heavily, Aloria turned to Reyes. This was no robbery. Someone wants me dead. Reyes wiped a cut on his arm, which means we're on the right path. Aloria clenched her fists. The battle for the truth had begun, and now there was no turning back. The palace guards arrived moments later, too late to stop the attack. Princess Aloria stood in the center of her chambers, her breathing heavy, the ceremonial blade still in her hand. Captain Reyes wiped the blood from his knuckles, his sharp eyes scanning the darkened balcony for any sign of the assassins. The guards bowed deeply. "Your Highness, we will search for the attackers," one of them said. Aloria shook her head. "They will be long gone by now." But someone inside the palace sent them. Reyes stepped forward. This wasn't just an assassination attempt. It was a warning. They know we are getting close to the truth. Master Valen, still shaken, clutched the ancient book. "Your Highness, if they are willing to kill to keep this hidden, then we must act quickly." Aloria nodded, her mind racing. Someone powerful had erased history, someone who saw humans as a threat, and that person was still controlling the Dominion. The next morning, the palace was filled with whispers. News of the attack had spread, but no one knew the full truth. The nobles acted concerned, but Aloria saw the hidden glances, the careful words. Someone among them was responsible. Lord Kale was the first to visit her chamber. "Your Highness, this attack is troubling," he said smoothly. "Perhaps it is time to reconsider your alliance with the human." Aloria studied his face. He was calm, too calm. "You assume the human is the cause of this?" she asked. Kale nodded. "Since his arrival, tension has grown. Our enemies may see his presence as a threat." Reyes, standing nearby, smirked. "Or maybe someone inside the palace doesn't want the truth to be uncovered." Kale's eyes flickered with something unreadable. "Truth, Captain. Sometimes history is best left untouched." Aloria's fingers curled into a fist. She saw it now. Kale knew more than he was saying. But without proof, she couldn't accuse him. Not yet. After Kale left, Aloria turned to Reyes. "He's hiding something." Reyes nodded. "And he's not alone." That night, they made a plan. If the truth had been erased from history, then somewhere in the palace there had to be evidence. A secret chamber, hidden records, something the powerful nobles had kept from the people. They moved silently through the palace, avoiding guards, their footsteps echoing in the dark corridors. Reyes led the way, his instincts sharp. He had been in dangerous missions before, but this was different. The enemy was hidden in the very place they were supposed to be safe. Finally, in the deepest part of the palace, behind an ancient wall covered in symbols, they found it, a hidden door. Aloria's heart pounded. This is it. Reyes pressed his hand against the stone, and with a soft click, the door creaked open. What they saw inside left them speechless. Rows of ancient records, untouched for centuries. The truth was here, but they were not alone. A shadow moved in the darkness, and a voice whispered, "You should not have come here." Princess Aloria's heart raced as the voice echoed through the hidden chamber. Captain Rice immediately drew his weapon, his sharp eyes scanning the darkness. The faint light from their lantern revealed towering shelves of ancient scrolls and dusty data crystals, but they could not see who had spoken. "Show yourself," Rice commanded, his voice steady but firm. A figure stepped forward from the shadows. It was a cloaked individual, their face hidden beneath a dark hood. The air around them seemed tense, as if charged with an unspoken danger. Aloria stood tall, her hand resting on the ceremonial blade she had carried since the attack. "Who are you?" she demanded. "Why are you here?" The figure didn't answer right away. Instead, they slowly lowered their hood, revealing a middle-aged woman with sharp features and piercing silver eyes. Aloria recognized her at once. "Counselor Varys." Aloria's voice was a mix of shock and confusion. Varys nodded, her expression unreadable. "Your Highness, I did not wish for you to find this place. But now that you have, I cannot let you leave." Ray stepped between Aloria and Varys, his stance protective. "What are you hiding? Why were these records erased?" Varys sighed. "You think this is just about history, don't you? This is about power, control. The Dominion's strength comes from unity, from belief in our superiority. If the people knew humans once stood as our equals, if they knew humans fought by our side and saved us, our entire system would crumble." Aloria's voice grew firm. "You erased the truth to maintain a lie." "It's not just a lie," Varys said coldly. "It's stability. You have no idea the chaos that knowledge could bring." Rice raised his weapon slightly. "And what about the assassins? Did you send them too?" Varys didn't deny it. "I had to protect the Dominion. Your Highness, you must understand." "I understand that you are afraid," Aloria interrupted. "Afraid of change, afraid of losing control. But that does not justify murder or deception. The truth will come out, and the people will decide what to believe." Varys' expression hardened. "You think they'll accept humans as allies? You're a fool. The Council will never allow it." Rice smirked. "Then it's a good thing the princess doesn't take orders from the Council." Aloria stepped forward. "You can't stop this, Varys. The people deserve to know the truth, and I will see to it that they do. The Dominion must move forward, not cling to lies from the past." Varys glared at them, her silver eyes burning with frustration. Then, without a word, she turned and disappeared into the shadows. Rice lowered his weapon cautiously. "We should get these records out of here before she returns with more guards." Aloria nodded. "The truth is our best weapon now." Together, they began gathering the ancient scrolls and data crystals. The hidden chamber had revealed its secrets, but they both knew the fight was far from over. They had uncovered the truth, but now they would have to defend it. The grand hall of the Zephyr Dominion buzzed with whispers as Princess Aloria stepped to the center, her voice steady, her hands clutching the ancient book. Beside her, Captain Rice stood silent but firm. Together, they faced the council members and nobles who had ruled the Dominion for generations. Today would be different. "For too long," Aloria began, her voice clear and resolute, "we have lived in the shadow of a lie. Our history was erased, our alliance with humanity buried, all to maintain a false sense of superiority. But that ends now." The room fell silent. All eyes turned to the princess. "This book," Aloria continued, raising the fragile pages for all to see, "is proof that humans once fought beside us, not as our inferiors, but as equals. They shared their courage, their resilience, and their ingenuity. They were our allies in the darkest of times." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some noble faces turned pale, others red with anger. Cale stepped forward, his expression cold and sharp. "You're making a mistake, Your Highness. The people are not ready for this truth. It will only cause confusion, division, and freedom. Aloria cut him off, her gaze fierce. The people deserve to know. They deserve to make their own choices, to build their future on truth, not fear. Captain Rice spoke then, his voice calm and steady. I came here not to divide you, but to help you stand stronger. Together, humans and Zephyrians can face the threats that loom over the galaxy. But first, we must face the truth. Cal's lips tightened, but he said no more. Aloria turned back to the council. I will not force you to accept this. I simply ask you to read, to listen, and to consider what kind of dominion we wish to be. Are we strong enough to embrace the truth, or will we remain chained by lies? The nobles exchanged uncertain looks. Some nodded hesitantly, while others muttered among themselves. Cal stepped back, his face a mask of defeat. For the first time, he had no counterargument. As Aloria stood tall, her words sank deep into the hearts of those present. Some would resist, others would hesitate, but the seeds of change had been planted. The princess knew it would take time, but she also knew this was the beginning of a new era. After the council session ended, Aloria and Rice stood on a high balcony, looking out over the vast city below. Do you think they'll accept it? Aloria asked. They may not all accept it today, Rice said, his voice steady. But the truth is out now. It can't be hidden again. Aloria nodded, a faint smile touching her lips. A new dawn for the Dominion. Rice looked at her, his expression unreadable. And perhaps a new future for all of us. The princess stood tall as the sun rose over the palace, bathing the city in golden light. The battle for the truth was over, but the journey to rebuild had only just begun. Days passed since Princess Aloria had revealed the hidden truth to the council. The news spread throughout the Dominion like a wildfire. Some citizens were stunned, others angry, and a few hopeful. The revelation that humans had once been their allies challenged everything the Zephyrians believed about their superiority. Captain Rice stood with Aloria on the palace's main terrace, watching the city below. The streets were alive with energy. Some people debated loudly in the marketplaces, while others gathered in small, quiet groups to discuss what the princess had said. You've shaken the very foundation of this place, Rice said quietly. That was the point, Aloria replied, her gaze steady. If we are to move forward, we must first face the cracks in our foundation. As tensions rose within the Dominion, the external threat they'd feared loomed ever closer. Reports of the encroaching enemy fleet came in daily. The time for talk was quickly running out. Aloria summoned a council of military leaders and advisors, including both supporters and skeptics. Rice was by her side, offering insights from his own experience. Though some still eyed him with suspicion, his calm confidence and straightforward approach began to win over even the most reluctant officers. The meeting lasted long into the night. Plans were made, strategies drawn up. It was agreed that human ingenuity and Zephyrian technology would need to work together if they hoped to survive. For the first time in years, the council chambers buzzed with collaboration rather than division. After the meeting ended, Rice approached Aloria. You took a big risk today. It was a risk worth taking, she replied. We can't afford to stay divided. Not now. Rice studied her for a moment. You're not the ruler I expected when I first arrived. And you're not the soldier I expected, she said with a faint smile. You've changed more minds here than I thought possible. Rice looked away, his expression thoughtful. It wasn't just me. You gave them a reason to listen. Outside the palace, the preparations continued. Engineers worked day and night to improve the Dominion's defenses, incorporating human ideas and strategies. Soldiers trained in new tactics that combined the best of both worlds. Slowly but surely, the once divided people began to work as one. But the threat drew closer every hour. Aloria knew that a single battle would not win this war. It would take more than strength. It would take trust. One evening, she addressed the city directly, her voice broadcast across every communication channel. She spoke of the challenges they faced, the strength of unity, and the hope of building a future that embraced both truth and resilience. As her words echoed through the city, a sense of resolve settled over the people. The Zephyrians had spent too long looking down on others. Now they would stand alongside them. Reyes, listening quietly in the corner, felt a glimmer of something he hadn't felt in a long time. The hope that together they might truly succeed. The first battle was fierce and tested everything the Dominion and their human allies had worked so hard to prepare. The enemy fleet was larger and more technologically advanced than expected, but the combined forces of the Zephyrians and humans fought as one. Captain Reyes led a squadron of elite soldiers, while Princess Aloria commanded from the central warship, her voice steady as she coordinated movements and deployed strategies. It was not just technology that won the day, but creativity, determination, and the willingness to adapt. The Zephyrian soldiers were used to following strict, rigid plans. Humans, on the other hand, thrived in unpredictable situations. When the battle turned chaotic, it was Reyes's quick thinking that helped them outmaneuver the enemy's most powerful ships. By the time the smoke cleared and the final enemy vessel retreated, the Zephyrian fleet was battered but standing. Victory came at a cost, but it was a victory nonetheless. As the battered fleet returned to the Dominion, a new atmosphere settled over the people. They no longer viewed humans as mere outsiders, nor did they cling to their old pride. Instead, they saw humans as allies, partners who had proven themselves not just on the battlefield, but in spirit. Princess Aloria addressed the entire planet from the palace balcony, her voice carried across the skies and the stars. Today, we have shown that our strength lies not in pretending to be superior, but in uniting with those who share our vision for peace and survival. We will honor this victory not by forgetting the past, but by building a future where all species can stand together as equals. Her words resonated deeply. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion felt hope not just for survival, but for growth. Reyes, standing quietly behind her, watched the people below cheer and applaud. He was not one for grand speeches, but he felt a deep satisfaction, knowing that his part in this had made a difference. "Looks like you won them over," he said to Aloria, as she stepped back from the balcony. "Not just me," she replied. "We all did. This isn't just my victory. It's ours." Reyes smirked faintly. "Not bad for a human, huh?" Aloria raised an eyebrow but smiled. "Not bad at all." From that day forward, the Zephyr Dominion began a new chapter. Old prejudices faded, replaced by a shared sense of purpose. The once hidden records were placed in a public archive, available for anyone to study. Education and understanding flourished, and with it, so did the bonds between humans and Zephyrians. Years later, when children heard the stories of Princess Aloria and Captain Reyes, they wouldn't see them as separate or divided. They would see them as symbols of what could be achieved when two worlds came together to face a challenge and won. It was, after all, the beginning of something greater than a single victory. It was the foundation of a future where truth and unity could thrive.